Hello everybody! Yes, I'm Tony Craig. This is F1 Grandstand and this is your daily Formula One news. So, Audi say they will not accept the FIA doing nothing about this engine loophole. You know, if they don't do anything before the end of the season, they don't do anything at all. James Key has basically gone nuclear. But the thing is, Bonotto is basically saying something different. We're going to try and unpick it all, but it is all a bit crazy. The F1 additional upgrades opportunity, what is it? How is it going to affect the teams in 26? Is it any good? Red Bull have had their say. And wait till you see what it is. It's pretty funny. Horner, it didn't work out Aston Martin, but did those conversations lead to Aston Martin and Adrian Newey's new target to become another chief at Aston Martin? How many chiefs do they need? But you wouldn't believe who it is. I think you'll be shocked. Audi may have given some of their secrets away at their livery launch, also their recent test. People have been we've got some side-by-side pictures where we can see I think they've given some things away regarding their designs. Arvid Lindblad gets a new nickname because, we've got video footage. Recent test, he did 3 laps at Imola earlier this week, and you'll get to see them here on the show. So yes, if you are a Formula One fan, of course, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash a like on the video if you enjoy it. And if you are brand new and you're going to subscribe, that's great. But just behind that subscribe button, make sure you've got the bell all icon ticked. That way you're in control of the content that you want to interact with. Gonna say hello to the chat. Who've we got? Kyle. Oh yeah, so Kyle's got to go back to work. Boo, Kyle, boo. You need to resign. Hey, Reevesy, he's in the house. Has Audi warned the FIA that they're making changes to the car's design? Oh my God. Do you know what? I think I'm on my own. Loads of people like it, you know. Loads of people like the Audi R26 livery. I think I'm on my own. It might grow on me. Hey, Greybush, welcome to the chat, my friend. Crackite's in there. Crackite's in his van in Birmingham watching while the better half and the daughter at the O2 Academy. Wow. Who's on at the O2 Academy? Crackite. Let me know. So yeah, there's quite a few things. This Audi story, though, is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to try and get through it all as clearly as I can. And I'm going to start with James Key's comments, who is the technical director of Audi. There's so many chiefs now with work teams. Like, who is the boss? That's the thing. But James Key is a technical director of Audi, company Audi. And this is what James Key has been saying. So he says, we never accept the FIA's proposed response to Mercedes F1 engine loophole. Now, I'm going to quote him. So this is what he says. James Key believes it's vital that the FIA bans any ways to exploit the engine compression rules, as it would not make sense to let some teams use the loophole if others can not. It would take several months for the other brands to develop a new engine. So this is what he said, quote, we have to, as we do, trust the FIA with making the right decisions here. It's new regs. You've got to have a level playing field. If someone came up with a clever diffuser and he said it's not the right thing to do, no one else can have it, but you can have it for the rest of the year, it doesn't make sense. We'd never accept that. Well, when you put it like that, I understand what he's saying. But the key alludes to the FIA could potentially agree to allow Mercedes and Red Bull to keep their engines that achieve an 18-to-1 combustion rate during operation in the 2026 season, and then have to have new units for 2027. But that would basically create potentially a 2-tiered grid. Now, I understand that argument, but James Key has been absolutely adamant that that's Audi's position. But is it though? Because then we bring in what Bonotto has said to Ferrari. So Bonotto said this. Ferrari were told they can't protest Mercedes engine trick at Australian Grand Prix. And it's Bonotto that's been saying this. So the Audi boss, Formula One boss, Bonotto questioned whether this approach is viable because they can't pinpoint exactly which feature of the car is illegal. You can protest if you know what you're protesting. So what? It's a bit weird, right, that Bonotto's saying this, because he's basically saying, well, what can we do about it? Because we don't actually know that all of this stuff is real. We don't actually know what we're protesting about. And what would Ferrari be protesting about? And this is where he goes on to say, I don't think there'll be clarity or compromise. The meeting which has been set for the 22nd of January is more to continue to discuss how we can improve or develop a methodology for the future to measure the compression ratios in operating conditions. Today, we are doing it in cool conditions with the engine disassembled, so you may wait until the end of the season to know if you are compliant. It's simple. We are trying all together to really develop a methodology where we can measure it in real time while the car is running. My hope in the meeting is not clarity on the regulation itself, but more to define a methodology in the future. So Bonotto's got a slightly different approach. He's basically saying, he sort of resigned himself to the fact that, well, we can't do anything and we can't protest at the Grand Prix because what we're protesting, the regulation, he's basically saying the regulation says at ambient temperatures, it's 16-1. So if they are compliant at 16-1, what is the basis for the protest? You can only protest if you're protesting something. So this is really absolutely in contradiction to what the Audi technical director is saying. So they need to get the ducks in a row, Audi, here, if they're all going to sort of have, what is their position, right? What actually is their position? This is the quote. This is the actual quote from Bonotto. Today we're doing it in cool conditions with the engine disassembled. That's the letter of the law. So you may wait until the end of the season to know if you're compliant. It's simple. We are trying all together to develop a methodology where we can measure it in real time while the car is running. Well, good luck with that. So they now want to invent some technology that can measure the compression ratio at operational temperatures during the race to make sure no one's cheating. Well, is it cheating? It's not. Is it cheating? Because right now, there is no technology to measure the compression ratio at race temperatures. So that means you've got to wait for them to develop a way of doing that, have that fitted to all the cars, collect that data in real time. How long is that going to take? Right? I mean, how is that? I don't know. So, and the problem is when we look at what Hodgkinson was saying, Hodgkinson was very clear. Who's Red Bull Powertrain's chief, he said, look, which is quite funny actually, because wow, I got it. I thought I had it. Oh, I've not got it. So basically, Hodgkinson was saying this. I'll paraphrase. It's that it takes 12 weeks to redesign, 12 weeks to build, and 12 weeks to test. So you're talking about a 36-week minimum cycle for people to develop a new power unit. And here's the other point. This is what Andy Cowell said about the power units. He said, and talking about Honda, there's always a topic that bubbles up when new regulations come into place. Every competitor reads the regulations and pushes performance to the limit. Compression ratio is clearly a key thermal efficiency enabling aspect of an internal combustion engine. So you always push it to the limit. I'm sure every single power unit manufacturer is doing that. So then this baffles me, because Honda are supposed to be one of the people and Aston Martin who are complaining about Mercedes and Red Bull potentially having this advantage. But then Cowell's talking like that. He's making it sound like, well, all the engine manufacturers understand about thermal dynamics and they're all doing it. So I wonder whether there's some gamesmanship here, because if you're Honda and you're actually achieved an 18-to-1 compression ratio with your engine, but no one's talking about you. Audi, I don't think have achieved it. That's why they are stronger on these. Audi and Ferrari are obviously stronger with their protesting than anybody else. But could you imagine if they've all done it, apart one, they've all managed to crack the thermal expansion problem to get an 18-to-1 compression rate, but they basically just want to nerf Mercedes and Red Bull, and they get away with it because I don't know. There seems to be something weird going on here. If Cowell can basically say that it's an obvious part of developing an engine, and everybody's going to be exploiting the benefits of the expansion at race temperature. Well, then I don't know. Is it actually all a big hoo-ha about nothing? I don't know. Audi, I think, they definitely haven't done it. They're definitely furious, and they do not want to have a two-tiered grid where the 8 cars running the Mercedes power unit and the 4 cars running the Red Bull powertrain, because we know we believe they've got the 18-to-1 compression ratio at race temperatures and everyone else struggle. It would be a dilemma. But what can they do? What do Audi do? Go, we're not going to race. We're not going to turn up. I don't know. And I also think that James Key and Bonotto need to be singing from the same hymn sheet. You can't have 2 chiefs under the same brand. One who's sort of a bit more lenient, talking to the FIA, understanding, saying, hey, well, we know these engines have been built and you need to develop some technology which can measure the compression ratio at race temperatures. But at the same time, what you're actually saying is, if you develop a technology that measures the compression ratio at race temperatures, well, then you're basically saying that anybody that's built an engine that's achieved an 18-to-1 compression ratio at race temperatures, at that point, they're breaking the rules, right? So this is going to go on. It's going to go on. But Audi feel like, that they would be the most unhappy if Mercedes are allowed to continue. But what's the alternative? They cannot redesign engines and have all those customer teams. There's no way Mercedes have got another engine they can supply to all their customers, which would be compliant if they said that, if they ruled that to be illegal. So I don't know. I think it's a lot of noise coming out from Audi, but we just don't know how they're going to handle it. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But that's the first story of the night. Second story. This is more interesting, if slightly different. So we all know that the Christian Horner deal to Aston Martin didn't or hasn't worked out. But has that deal led to Adrian Newey's latest target for a new chief to join Aston Martin? I believe it's, well, basically, we all know why Christian Horner didn't work out Aston Martin. He wanted an equity deal. Papa Stroll and Christian Horner couldn't really make it work. I don't think Newey wanted to reduce his position, who's got an equity in the team, and sort of become second fiddle to Christian Horner. There was a lot of things, even though they're now friends again. The Aston Martin deal fell down. But this is the important part. So, talking about the Aston Martin deal, more significantly, his old colleague Adrian Newey commands more influence there now, and his desire for an engineer with more hands-on trackside experience to sit alongside him, not someone who feels that every item of company business must cross their desk. That's what he said about Horner. Hence the name of Gian Piero Lambiase. Oh, I can't get my words out tonight. So Lambiase, Max Verstappen's race engineer, who has been in demand from Williams, they were talking to him about a chief position over at Williams as well. Well, he's Aston Martin's top target. He's Adrian Newey's top target to bring into the team. Now, I wonder why. Do you think it's because he thinks if he gets Lambiase, it's an opportunity to maybe entice Max Verstappen into the team in the future? Possibly. Or is it just because Newey worked with Lambiase closely for a number of years at Red Bull, and he knows his worth, he knows his quality, and he feels that moving him up from a race engineer position to a chief position, which might be chief strategy officer or, chief technical officer, or whichever chief is available. There can't be many chief available positions left at Aston Martin. They've got so many chiefs. But for some reason, it was the Horner negotiation that's led to Lambiase becoming the new target. Or would he become a team principal and Adrian Newey relinquishes his position to allow a spot for Lambiase? But it's an interesting target, isn't it? Because we saw Lambiase saying, look, he's definitely not leaving Max this year. Max spoke quite he was very blunt when he said he was never going anywhere. But, everybody wants to progress. Everybody wants the next step up the ladder. And Max, even though he's got a great relationship with Lambiase, and it's great for Max, surely Lambiase has his own ambitions for his own career. Surely he's thinking about his future, and taking a chief position at Williams or at Aston Martin has got to be good for him and his family, right? Good for his career, more money, more responsibility. If he ever wants to be, who knows what his ambitions are, but I don't think his ambitions are to be Max Verstappen's race engineer for the rest of his days, right? I'm not sure that's his plan. So Adrian Newey knows talent, obviously, and they are going to go after him. I don't think they'll get him in 26. Can I see him there in 27? Yes. Does it create a pathway for Max Verstappen to be there in 27? Possibly, if that Red Bull's no good and the Aston Martin's really good. We do know, we talked about it yesterday, that Adrian Newey feels that Charles Leclerc has got the perfect driving style for his new car. But guess what? Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are two drivers that you could put in the same bracket that like a similar type of car. They're like a very aggressive front end, super twitchy, almost on the edge of oversteer. That's the type of car they like to drive. And if you think about it, Adrian Newey thinks if you drive a car, they're the fastest cars if you can handle them. So, of course he'd like Max Verstappen. Of course he'd like Charles Leclerc. He probably feels Charles Leclerc is more of a viable target. But if he gets Lambiase in a top job, does it make it even more possible to entice Max? Max, it comes down to the car, comes down to 26, comes down to how good that Adrian Newey rocket ship is. I'm going to salute to the chat. So Krakau says, yeah, this is where F1 misses Christian Horner. Yeah, he's the king of complaining. Have an essay on why he's legal. That's true. Could you imagine the Horner protest in Australia against Mercedes and Toto Wolff? He'd be going crazy about it. Hey, Sema, nice to have you in the chat. Good morning over there in Australia. So what's Gemma? I've missed one of Gemma's comments. What's Gemma said? I'm trying to catch up with the chat. So Gemma said he's got a PhD in complaining. Well, Jaman says Keys is calling out the FIA on the 2009 Brawn car hypocrisy. Newey stated he asked about a dual diffuser in 2009 and was told it was illegal. Yeah, and then Brawn, their first season in F1, run that dual double diffuser, didn't they? You're right. Yeah, yeah, and I think look, there has to be, going back to the first story on, but it is tied in. It is tied into what I was saying about the additional upgrade opportunity. I forgot to mention that, actually. I'll bring that back in a minute, because some people the FIA are saying that the additional upgrade opportunity in Formula One for 26 is there to, is potentially there to help the teams who may be behind. We'll come to that in a minute. So yeah, in fact, no, I'm going to go to it now. So this is So the additional upgrade opportunity, just while you brought it up, is basically if a power unit is more than 3% slower than the fastest manufacturer, that them and their customer teams will get additional upgrades, right? Red Bull Powertrain's technical director Ben Hodgkinson emphasised how difficult it. But this is interesting, right? So the FIA is saying, look, this is how we can help the teams who might be behind because of this engine loophole, right? And if you look at the headline, Red Bull rubbish paddock insiders claim that F1 additional upgrades initiative will propel a team to the front. So Red Bull, who are also benefiting from the engine loophole, the 18-to-1 compression ratio, are now saying about, which is going, but they shouldn't be saying this. Ben Hodgkinson should keep his mouth shut. But what Ben Hodgkinson says is that this claim about the additional upgrades is going to do nothing. It's not going to help those teams at all. Well, don't say that when you're the team that's benefiting from exploiting the loophole, you dipstick. But this is what he says. He emphasised how difficult it would be for teams to build a competitive power unit, even with additional help. That he said, so if I need to make a change, firstly, I've not just got 2 cars to update, I've got a whole fleet of engines in the pool. So I could have 12 engines that I need to update. That takes time. Because we're homologated, you can't really take a flyer on something that isn't well proven, because you could be signing up to a world of pain. It takes 12 weeks to produce the right precision internal components, another 12 weeks to check their durability, then another 12 weeks to bring new units to the race pool. So the Red Bull chief believes that it could take up to 6 months. It's actually over 6 months. That's 36 weeks to bring new designs through, thus limiting what a team could do under the additional unit upgrade opportunity. Ben Hodgkinson, like, why are you saying it? You're benefiting from the engine loophole, and then you've got the FIA saying, oh, don't worry about him benefiting from the loophole. You've got the additional development upgrade opportunity where, you know, we'll give you more upgrades so you can improve your engine. And then what Ben does, who's the beneficiary of the loophole, goes, nah, what the FIA are saying to you there, boys, load of bullshit. You'll never catch us. Nah. I mean, you'll never catch us. You're 6 months behind. It's like, why are you saying that, Ben Hodgkinson? Like, that seems crazy. The FIA are doing you a favour to try and quieten down the other teams who are moaning that you've exploited a loophole. And then you're basically saying, nah, not going to work. Haha, never going to catch us. 6 months behind. I mean, Ben Hodgkinson, the chief over at Red Bull Powertrain, saying that. I mean, I just found that hilarious. But yeah, so I'm not... Basically, Ben Hodgkinson himself is saying these additional upgrade opportunities are bollocks. And what they are is that they'll give the other teams more upgrades, more chance to develop something. Anyway, that answers that. But Ben Hodgkinson, crazy. So yeah, so we're talking about Lambiase. So Aston Martin set the sights on Gianpiero Lambiase after Christian Horner talks. Horner was obviously keen to a Formula One return, only if he could take a similar role to Toto Wolff. We know all that. And Adrian Newey already has at Aston Martin set his sights on Gianpiero Lambiase and he tried to entice him over the winter break with a view to potentially handing over some of Newey's responsibilities to him. So, yes, that's the situation. Would he be a good addition? Yes. Going back to this story, would it help entice Max Verstappen? Possibly. Only if the car's a rocket ship. But yeah, interesting target. Lambiase could be moving up in the world. I'm going to go to the chat. So Thane says, it's hard to believe that Merc will have better hybrid tech, seeing Ford has been refining their EcoBoost tech for a long time. They even beat Ferrari when they returned with a V6 EcoBoost engine. Well, I mean, look, Ben Hodgkinson has been talking a good game, hasn't he? I mean, he really has. He's been saying that if the other teams don't understand thermal dynamics, they don't deserve to be an engineer. He's saying, he's basically just calling them all idiots. And then even when the FIA trying to really help Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains, giving the other teams some sort of benefit in kind to say, look, we've got the additional upgrades opportunities where you can develop your engines and catch up. He's then going, nah, never going to work. I mean, it's... I just find that funny. Find it funny. Yeah, Nathan says compression ratio isn't tested. The engine dimensions are measured and calculated. All engines while in operation have a dynamic compression ratio that can differ from the static value. Well, you'd think, see, this is what I think that's basically what Cowell was saying as well. Like, if they're building those engines out of alloy or aluminium, thermal expansion is obviously going to happen. I mean, Ferrari have gone with a steel cylinder head. Whether that makes a difference, I don't know. But it's just how much expansion. I mean, someone cleverer than me worked out that you need 0.5 millimeter of expansion at race temperature to go from a 16:1 compression ratio to an 18:1 compression ratio. Maybe just how and how do you measure that? If Bonotto's right, talking about, finding a way to actually make a consistent compression ratio. Really, I mean, I'm actually, I tell you what I actually think. This is what I actually think. I don't know whether Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains are wrong here, because you can get an accurate measurement, like Nathan says, which are dimensions based, which are measured and calculated from pure dimensions. We measure the cylinder head, blah blah blah. I'm not an engineer, but you know what I mean. They're doing measurements and calculations, which at ambient temperatures make sense. I mean, isn't that really the only constant that you can ensure, especially if you're setting a limit of 16:1 compression ratio? I mean, don't engines. I mean, obviously they have an operating race temperature. But there's going to be variance, isn't there? There's going to be variance. The only thing, because when you heat something, it's not going to be constantly, accurately at the same temperature, is it? I don't know. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I don't understand it enough. I just think that maybe what they originally decided, which is take these measurements at ambient temperatures, and for those measurements to equate to a 16:1 compression ratio. After that, so what, right? You invent a whole new material to build your engine that gives you a different compression ratio. Maybe that should be allowed. Like, maybe that's the thing. Maybe FIA should just turn around and say, look, we're happy with it. You're behind the curve. Unlucky. Because I don't know I honestly don't know enough about engineering to know how they would measure and keep a constant measurement of those engines. Because like Nathan says, you're actually taking physical measurements. I don't know how you do that. I'm stumped. I'm stumped with it. I just don't know. And that's the thing. I don't think I'm the only one. I don't think anybody knows how you could actually operate that type of system that Bonotto is talking about. I don't know how this one's going to play out, but my stand, I have gone from, honestly, I have pendulumed on this. People are going to call me a right flip-flop, because sometimes, I mean, some arguments I was like, oh, it does sound like cheating, but actually now I think I've finally developed my view on it, and I don't think it's cheating. I think it's just great engineering. I think the engineers setting a constant benchmark, which is a measurement, like Nathan says, which you can mathematically calculate a 16:1 compression rate at ambient temperatures. After that, all bets are off. I think that's how it should be. I think if you can develop an engine which does incredible things at race temperatures, then do it, and it should be allowed, and everyone gets the same opportunity. That's what I think. Droptune said the issue is neither do the FIA know what to do. It's definitely not cheating. I'm with you, Droptuned. I've pendulumed on this and listened and read as much as I can about the different arguments for and against, and now I'm putting my stake in the ground. I don't think it's cheating. I think it should be allowed. I think it's good engineering. I think measuring taking those physical measurements at ambient temperatures is the only real constant you can have. So if you're gonna be so specific about your compression ratios, then the maths have to work. Oh, so Jaman says the problem was the rule change stating how to measure. The previous rule stated max of 18:1. The ambient temp measurement created the problem. But how could they have even known the race temperature measurement, Jaman? That's the bit I'm getting. I don't understand. If the ambient temperature measurement seems like the most sensible way to do it, because how do you take an accurate measurement? How do you heat? How do you get the engine? I mean, how do you do that whilst it's in the car going around the track? I mean, to actually get a measurement that could be deemed as legal or illegal. Krakite said it can't be cheating if no rule or regulation has been broken. What will come is the FIA finding a way to change the rules and regs. But I don't know what they change them to, Krakite. This is a thing. Like, what can they... What do they do? I mean, unless they can find a way to measure in the car at race temperatures at 200 miles an hour, I don't know how they do it. But then again, I'm not an engineer. They'll come up with something. I actually think that the other teams may just need to play catch up. And if Hodgkinson's to be believed, that's a 6-month timeline. And yeah, it could be a 2-tier grid for the first, 12 races. Could look like that, right? But maybe that's just the genius of Mercedes and Red Bull powertrains. But I don't think I'm putting a mistake in the ground. I don't think it's cheating. I don't. I think the other teams just need to catch up. That's my final word. I finally decided how I feel about it. Nathan says thermal expansion is basic physics and it exists in all metals. It isn't the only thing that affects the compression ratio. Valve open duration can change it. Forced induction dramatically changes it. So if it's not just so I'm getting techie now, Nathan. So if it's not just about the expansion of the engine to create the 18:1 compression ratio, are there rules at the moment about the forced induction and about how the valve can open and the duration of valves opening? Are there rules that govern that? Do they all have to adhere to the same specifications for the valve open duration and the forced induction, the force behind it? Or are those things still open to interpretation by the teams and engineers? Or have they tried to limit that as well? In race conditions. Because what I'm basically saying is there a situation where you could have a 16:1 compression ratio by maths and calculation, but not just thermal expansion during race temperatures? Could they exploit exactly what Nathan said there? The forced induction and valve and how long the valve open. The boost limit exists, right? Droptune said Ben must be super confident they have an advantage with his comments. Very funny, and will annoy them. Yeah. I mean, look. I know what I need to do. Nathan, are you an engineer? I would love to get an engineer, maybe from Cosworth even, to talk about this, because I want to understand the engineering inside that engine better. I do. We need to get, if anyone's watching this show who understands the engineering part of a race engineering like Cosworth or anything like that, I want to hear from you. We want to get you on the show. Put a message in the community tab or message us on the email that's in the description and let me know, because it would be great to talk about this. I need educating on it. Krakite says, wonder if there's ways of measuring pressure in the cylinders while the car is being driven. Yeah, because this is the thing. I wonder. Like, it's what happens whilst they're under race conditions. Hey, Sema, thank you so much. Yes, 6,000 subs. We just passed 6,000 subs. Yes, Sema. All right, enjoy. See you on the replay. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I'd like to understand it better. I need to get an engineer on the show. I'll work on it. Right. I've also got to show you this. So Audi got some pictures from Audi. So we've got the Audi show car to the left of your screen and the real car on the right of your screen. Now we're seeing some discrepancies in the design. So on the official renders, you can see a pull rod front suspension rather than the push rod on the real car. So that's one difference, but this is the one that a lot of people are talking about. The Audi nose design. So the show car, we saw this like kind of rounded nose design. Everyone's show cars, by the way, are all a little bit of a red herring. We're seeing the liveries, but they're not giving any design cues away. They don't want to give anything away. But Audi may have let a couple of things slip this week. And the nose design's one of them. So you've got the show car design, which is just like a torpedo rounded edge. But the real car, as you can see on the right picture, it looks like it's more of a flat sort of hammer, well, not even a hammerhead, a flat nose design with some air intake at the front. It's kind of a cooling hole that's used on the real car. And we're thinking that these are going to be the real design elements of the real R26. There will be some tweaks and changes, obviously, before Australia. And also, the side pods as well. Got the side pod comparison. So got the Audi show car there. You can see it's quite an aggressive sort of shark's mouth opening, and on the real car you can see there's more of an overbite to the top. So we've seen all these subtle design cues, and it just goes to show that all of the cars that we get, all these livery launches coming up now, we're getting some red herrings as to what these cars are really going to look like by the time we get to the first Grand Prix at Melbourne. But yeah, but a couple of these, I think it's because the shakedown and the real car launch, they were able to compare the differences. Even the air intake was slightly different. On the real car, it's slightly bigger than the one on the show car, which is interesting because we saw the Racing Bulls air intake, and yeah, it was huge. It looked like an air conditioning unit. Like the FW13. But yeah, so Audi are giving away a few of their design cues, letting a few things slip already. And we've also got Arvid Lindblad's new nickname, because he was testing at Imola. Well, it was actually a pre-test test. So they were at Imola, him and Liam Lawson, and they got to do 3 laps each in the Racing Bulls car. And Lindblad has already got a new nickname. And we've got some video footage. I'm going to show you the video footage of Arvid Lindblad's 3-lap test at Imola. And tell me what you think his new nickname is going to be. There's no sound, unfortunately. Yeah, Arvid Lindblad taking his spin. First time out in the Racing Bulls. Look, I'm not bullying him, but we're gonna we'll look at it again. I mean, yeah. Look, I'm not gonna bully him, but his nickname, the fans made me laugh because they've decided after his spin, his new name is Arvid Spinblad. Ah, creative. But look, we saw Isaac Hadjar spin on the formation lap in Australia, and then look at the season he had as a rookie. Liam Lawson's done similar. So, but yeah, it was wet, it was damp. Arvid Lindblad didn't make it round 1 lap, unfortunately for him. But yeah, he has earned himself a new nickname, Arvid Spinblad. Hang on, let's just watch it one more time. Here he is again. Oh, where is it? There it is. There he is. If you're watching, Arvid, we're only having a bit of fun. Listen, you're gonna have to take the banter. There's gonna be lots happening in 26, and yeah, you're gonna have to go along with it. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with you, buddy. But yeah, Arvid Spinblad. That was the results from their 3-lap test at Imola. They were going into a full test, by the way, 200k test on today, actually doing that today. So this was yesterday. So yeah, that's your daily F1 news. It's not been a great news day today, to be honest, but all we can do is react to the news as it comes out. But I am going to go into the chat. Droptune said it would be great to get some clarification from a manufacturer who knows. Yeah, I agree. DT's come up with a good one. Arvid Link crash. When he crashes, that one's coming out. Gemma says, I was thinking the same, DT. Jiman says, well, at least didn't hit the wall or crush the car. Yeah, in a big way, 100%. It could have been way worse. And Nathan says, yeah, it's brutal being an F1 rookie these days. And do you know what? He's the only F1 rookie. That's the thing. He's going to get Rookie of the Year. He's the only F1 rookie on the grid in 26. And, we've got Lawson there to help mentor him through those. And actually, look, I take the piss out of Lawson a little bit. But Lawson has gone through it, didn't he? To show the mental strength he had from joining the Red Bull team, doing 2 Grand Prix, not being given the same car as Max, getting dropped. He had a horrible 2 races. And then to come back and to prove his worth and to really get almost, I would say, on a level pegging with Isaac Hadjar by the end of 25. He did a good job. He showed a lot of mental resilience, and it's not easy to do that. I mean, it's very difficult. You have the wind kicked out of you and then thrown into the B team, confidence shattered. And yeah, go on, son, rebuild from there. When you've got Isaac Hadjar as your teammate who is getting quicker and quicker. He did well. He did well to retain his seat. He had strong competition, obviously, with Yuki Tsunoda. So, yeah. And that was an interesting battle between the two of them. But having Lindblad's... here's the thing. I've said this a lot. The jury for me is out on Lindblad. He did well in FP1 when he was driving the Red Bull. It was actually as fast as Yuki, even a little bit quicker. But he hasn't won anything, really. In F2, he was, at the beginning of the season, last season, he was showing real promise. But then, what, did he finish 4th or 3rd in the championship? He wasn't dominant. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Encryption, Alonso getting Rookie of the Year. I'm calling it. Alonso getting Rookie of the Year. All right, DT. Thane says it's a long season. We might see some Formula E drivers getting the... Thane, this is an interesting point. So he says it's a long season. We might see some Formula E drivers getting the call up if the current drivers can't manage the battery well enough. Now, do you know, loads of F1 teams... I mean, Nick de Vries, even, who is racing in Formula E, Nick de Vries, he's part of the McLaren setup. Like they are bringing in these Formula E drivers to help educate the F1 drivers on battery management. Now, I never thought I'd have to say this in Formula One because I'm pretty much against the electrification of Formula One, and I'm not sure about this whole battery, 50% battery is going to work out. And having to deal with battery management in F1 when anyway, but they're bringing these FE drivers in to try and help them in the simulators on and try and educate them on how to optimize battery management and performance of the car. But it's an interesting point. Could we see the drivers in the... Could you imagine... What I'm basically saying is, can you imagine Nick de Vries coming back to F1? I mean... He was a disaster, wasn't he? But there's... I mean, yeah. Okay, here's a question. I'm going to put it to the community. Which current FE driver could you see driving in F1? And it can be someone who used to be... it can be someone who did drive in Formula 1, but who might have had that experience which has improved their game. Right, so... Trying to think who could be in there. I mean, Nick de Vries is probably. You got Jean-Eric Verne, Pascal Wehrlein. I can't even pronounce his name. I don't know. I'm thinking. I just can't imagine Nick de Vries coming back to F1. That'd be a. So Thane says the Andretti drivers for Caddy. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I can't see Nick de Vries coming back. But I do know they are helping the current F1 drivers with their battery management going into 26. Jaman says, do you think Yuki will help out? Oh, you're saying, do you think Yuki will help out Arvid Lindblad? I don't know. I think Yuki's got the best reserve seat in Formula One. That reserve seat at Red Bull, you're basically reserve driver for four cars on the grid, aren't you? So I think Yuki's secretly hoping that Lindblad's a bust. Because if Lindblad, is a bust, 5 or 6 races in, you could see Yuki back on the grid in the Racing Bulls. Well, actually, that's not true. No, that is true. Yeah, you could see him in the. I was saying that you wouldn't demote Hadjar at this point. No, I think that's what happens. I think if Lindblad is a bust and for whatever reason, I mean, he'd have to be really bad as a rookie to get dropped. It'd have to be Nick de Vries bad. And if he is, though, 5, 6 races in, you could see Yuki's rubbing his hands together. He gets to drive back on the grid in F1 in for the Racing Bulls, and I think that could happen. I think that could happen. Yeah, Thane says, I mean, if you don't watch Formula E and don't know the drivers, how can we have an educated? I don't. That's the truth. I do not watch Formula E. I honestly don't even know which Formula One drivers drive in Formula E apart from Nick de Vries. I don't know anymore. DT says, I watched it a bit back in 2020, 2021. I only remember Mitch Evans. Drop tuned what's Formula E. I think Drop Tune's steering the pot there, DT. He's like, who gives a shit about Formula E? Exactly. Exactly. But it's interesting because all drivers are looking for an edge next year. And if this battery management's going to change a lot of things, who's going to get that? Who's going to get that right? Thane says, people think F1 is the toughest to drive, but when they go to IndyCar, they struggle. So we can't act like F1 is the toughest cars to drive. Yeah, I mean, apparently Indy cars are quite different to drive than Formula One cars. F2 are pretty similar, I guess, to Formula One and Super Formula are, but apparently everyone says that the Indy car driving an Indy car is quite different to driving an F1 car. I've never driven either, but I would love to have a go, to be fair. Jaman says, with cost caps, any driver who is a big crasher will be on the chopping block. Well, I think if you're a rookie, the most important thing is don't put the car on the wall, right? That's why I was a bit surprised about Cola Pinto retaining his drive. How many times did he put the Alpine in the wall last year? Yeah, you're better off being slow than crashing the car. They'll forgive you being slow if you're showing promise. If you can be quick over 1 lap, then you can be quick over 70 laps, right? But if you start putting the car on the wall every race and every time it's a £400,000 rebuild, that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem. So I don't know. But they'll be interested to see how they use these Formula E drivers, get their knowledge. And I was also surprised today to find out that Nick de Vries was part of the McLaren setup. So there you go. But anyway, that's your show tonight. Like I say, a bit of a slow news day today. We made the best of it of what we could, but we'll see what comes out tomorrow. But it's all about community. It's all about us lot hanging out and having a good time. That's what it is. It's all about us lot having a good time. So we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30 with hopefully some more interesting news. We'll see what comes out throughout the day tomorrow. So I will see you all tomorrow at 7:30. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you on the next one. Ta-ta.